Hello and welcome. I'm Claire Feldman, your host and guide on this journey to thriving in private practice without the burnout. Are you a passionate therapist who's struggling with the entrepreneurial side of things? Do you wish you could serve great fit clients at times that suit you? Are you seeking financial stability so you can continue doing what you love? If so, then you're in the right place. I know firsthand the difficulties of navigating the business aspects of therapy, from building a website to managing social media, but I've made all the mistakes so you don't have to. Together we'll explore how you can build and grow your dream practice. So let's get started. Hi everyone, and welcome to today's episode where I'm going to be chatting to you all about email marketing. This feels like it is the first podcast episode that I've done in 2025, but it also feels like just the first episode that I've recorded in some time. It must be a good 5 weeks, I think, maybe, since I've recorded an episode. Obviously, we've had Christmas in between, but I also feel that I've probably gone down other rabbit holes. I've probably been hanging out a little bit too much on social media recently, and I had to just have a little check-in with myself and realize that I'm neglecting my podcast. And actually, it's a podcast that I really enjoy doing. It's a medium that I really want to grow and develop much more. So I'm trying to just reprioritize, refocus, and come back to putting my energy into creating some episodes for you. And this is where we're starting today. We're going to be chatting about email marketing. And this is something that when I chat to therapists, it can maybe feel a little bit overwhelming, perhaps. It can maybe feel like it's not something that's really applicable to therapists. And I really hope that by the end of this episode, you'll have maybe a new understanding of how email marketing can be really helpful for you in terms of your practice growth. And what are some of the ways that maybe you could approach using email in order to increase revenue within your private practice. I'll sort of maybe split this into kind of two different aspects. So when we're talking about email marketing, obviously we're talking about having people that are signed up to your email list that you're then able to send emails, share information, and then potentially sell maybe workshops or courses or programs that you have. Before we ever get to that stage of having people on our email list, we have to have a way of actually getting them to sign up to your email list. And for that, we need something called a lead magnet. So there's two aspects to this discussion. The first is a lead magnet, which is a resource that helps get people onto your email list. And then the second bit is, well, when they're on your email list, what do you do? What do you do with it? So when we think about therapist websites and maybe think about your own website, the first question is, do you have some sort of a free offer, some sort of an incentive on your website that encourages people to sign up for in exchange for your email, them being on your email list? So many therapists will not have that, especially if it's maybe just been a website that they've DIY'd and that they've built themselves. Or for other people, I've seen quite a lot that they will have maybe got some support and professionally had a website built. And there's maybe a little bit of a box on the bottom of the website that says something like subscribe to my free newsletter, or it'll say sign up to be updated on news. And it'll just really be a box that sits there that never gets utilized and that nobody ever fills in. And then therapists will sort of feel like, oh, well, it's a bit pointless having that on there. It's not really applicable to me. And nobody is signing up. And one of the biggest skills that as therapists that we're having to develop in private practice is marketing. We're not taught it. It can feel all sorts of uncomfortable. It can make us feel icky. It makes us feel like we're being pushy or that we're being salesy. And my hope is that through mediums such as my podcast, through mentoring or through my membership, that I can really help therapists change that perception of how they see selling, and that they can actually see it as something that can be engaging, that they can feel comfortable with, and that they can see that what they're offering is really of value, and feel really confident in sharing that with their audience and in sharing that with people. Because people like buying things that help them. I'm just thinking of myself that's just popped into my head over the Christmas break. Bought myself a lovely new journal for daily intention setting, and I've been using it every morning, sitting in bed and drinking my coffee in the morning and filling out my journal. And I'm loving it. I'm really loving it. So, like, people like to spend money on things to try and better themselves and to try and help themselves. And that's no different. You have these amazing skills, this amazing knowledge that you can share that can be helpful to people, and that there's people out there that are actually willing to invest in that support and in that help. I digress. It is relevant, but I've digressed a little bit. But just bringing it back in then to your lead magnet and to your free resource, that if you have something on your website and it just says sign up for updates or sign up for news, there is nothing that is going to make me hand over my email address to you for the potential of an update. People are very cautious around what they hand over their email address for and to whom. Absolutely rightly so, because people don't want to be spammed with nonsense in their inbox. So what you are offering on your website needs to be appealing enough, enticing enough that they want to sign up and that they really, really do want this resource, whatever it is, because it sounds like it's going to be really helpful to them. So as therapists, when I talk about becoming more adept to marketing, what you should then be thinking about is, who is my ideal client? What are the difficulties that they have? And what sort of resource might I be able to create that they're going to find incredibly helpful? And there's so many possibilities when it comes to, we call it a lead magnet. There's so many possibilities when it comes to creating a lead magnet for your ideal client. It could be just as simple as a checklist, something that they print off for themselves, like healthy habits or daily intentions. It could be something they just print off and that they tick off each day to say that they've done. It could be a journal, a little PDF created in Canva with journaling prompts. It could be an ebook, or it could be something audio if you're really comfortable doing things like maybe guided meditations or things like that, relaxation exercises. It could be something like that. So there's lots of possibilities of things that you could create for your ideal client, as long as it is something that is really addressing a problem that they have, that you're offering some sort of solution. Now, of course, we know that you're not going to be able to solve their trauma or their OCD or whatever their difficulty is. You're not going to be able to solve that in a PDF, but you're offering some sort of resources or some sort of helpful tools or teaching some sort of skill that is going to be helpful for them. So that's something just to kind of get you thinking about if you are considering getting started around building an email list, that the first step in that is going to be creating kind of a really enticing resource that your ideal client is going to wow. So when we're thinking about what type of therapist or who this might be for, thinking about building an email list, really I encourage, like, any therapist that has ambition to do anything beyond one-to-one, I would basically be thinking about starting an email list from day one. It's probably the thing that if I could go back and think about, what would I do differently? I would be thinking about getting an email list set up and started on my website right from day one. It's something I really only started with Etology a few years ago whenever I did a whole website rebrand. The reason why I say I would be starting that straight away is that obviously it takes time. It takes time to build up an audience. It takes time to grow an email list. And if we have aspirations or we're thinking about maybe selling workshops or courses in the future, you need an audience to be able to sell to. And most people, not always, but most people, if you think about yourself, even as a user, most people will sign up for courses and workshops and things through email. The reason why email really, for me, is sort of the gold standard if you're thinking about courses and programs is because the potential reach for it is much greater. So if you have a social media account, it's something like 6%. 6% of your audience will see anything that you post at any one time. So if you're trying to promote a workshop or a course or a program, only 6% of your audience are potentially going to see that. And you're trying to capture their attention in all the noise of social media when they're scrolling through and they're being bombarded with reels and audio and music and so many other distractions that if your offer doesn't catch their attention really quickly, you've lost them. Whereas if you have them subscribe to your email list, you're getting to send a quality email straight to their inbox with less distraction, with less noise around them, and the open rate potentially for an email could be anything maybe up to 50%. So you'll have more eyes on it essentially if you are promoting your offer through email. The other reason why I'm a big fan of email is that you actually own your email list, whereas with social media, you don't own your social media, and there is risks of things like accounts getting hacked or algorithms being changed and all of that sort of stuff. So whilst it can be really great and really helpful to have social media to grow an audience and to promote things on, I would always be thinking about wanting to direct people to your email list, because when they're on your email list, with the exception obviously of when they potentially might unsubscribe from your email list, is that you have direct access to them. And that's where you can kind of build and start to nurture that relationship with them. So hopefully this isn't, I'm trying not to, there's a whole lot of kind of technical aspects to this. Obviously, there's the technical side of creating the resource in itself. Then there's the technical side of, okay, I've created this lovely PDF. How do I then get it onto my website? How do I promote it on my website? I'm not going to go into any of the tech side of it because everybody's probably going to be on different hosting platforms, different website providers, but it is something that either if you're not really tech savvy, it might be something that you need to get a little bit of support with, just kind of getting it set up and getting it implemented. So you've created, say, your free resource. It's addressing your ideal clients' pain points and their difficulties. Just trying to think of maybe some suggestions. So like for me personally, when they come to my website, ADHology, it's an audio, a binge eating hypnosis audio that's on there. And that's what people will sign up to my email list in exchange for getting this audio. It could be if you are, say you are a child therapist, it could be a resource that's about helping kids to manage big emotions, like 10 activities to help kids manage big emotions. And that would obviously be the parents would be signing up for that to help them engage and interact with their children. It could be if you specialize maybe in addiction, it could be things like offering affirmations to help people stay strong in recovery. Or it could be, we're in January now where I'm recording this, it could be something like a 30-day dry challenge where you're sending out little via email, like little daily prompts and suggestions to help them navigate the 30 days of no alcohol. It could be maybe you specialize, you're a therapist and you specialize in burnout. It could be something like a burnout recovery toolkit where it's a PDF full of resources and strategies to help people that are experiencing burnout. So there's loads and loads of possibilities. You would probably want to be mindful that you're not trying to overwhelm. This is just about encouraging people to join your email list. So you want to offer a resource, but you want to keep it relatively simple, and you don't want it to be something that's overwhelming. And you also don't want it to be something that's so packed with information that it completely negates the offer of maybe a more in-depth course or something in the future. We want to see them coming onto your email list and downloading your free resource as a stepping stone potentially onto then going on and buying something and possibly from you in the future. So create the free resource. Potentially you might need some support to get that set up in the back office of your website to encourage people to set up. When the resource is set up and connected, we then need to have an email provider, which means that when somebody puts their email address into your website and they sign up for your free resource, that there's some sort of email automation that happens where they will automatically be sent an email, sent the copy of whatever resource they have signed up for. And then that's when, from that moment on, you would be wanting to think about nurturing and building a relationship with the person that has subscribed to your list. There are a number of different email providers. So I'm not talking here about Yahoo Mail or Gmail or anything like that. You do need a specific email platform provider. The one I tend to recommend to therapists the most is MailerLite because it's free of charge. I think for up to about 1,000 subscribers, MailerLite is free of charge, is pretty user-friendly. And there are other providers like ActiveCampaign and ConvertKit. There's a number of different providers. But for most therapists getting started, I would say MailerLite is probably the best one that I would recommend. So if you have something like MailerLite that gets set up, that is then what you would be connecting to for your free resource and the sign up on your website. You would then be connecting that to email. So when we're thinking about email, again, what I see with therapists sometimes is that they'll maybe even get to the stage of creating a resource and encouraging people to sign up to their email list, and then they'll do nothing with it. And people will sit on their email list and then nothing happens after that. So what we really want to think about is two things. There's an objective of we want to grow our email list. We need to continue to grow our email list so that I have an audience, so that I can promote in the future my workshops and my programs. In order to grow my email list, I need to get eyes. I need to get eyes on my free resource. I need to get eyes on my lead magnet, and I need to build this list. So there's two parts in that we need to be promoting and sharing, which will generally be through things like on your website or in social media or in Facebook groups. You'll be sharing this resource, letting people know the benefit of it, and you'll be promoting it fairly regularly to encourage people to sign up and get onto your list. When they're then on your list, what do you do? What do you say to them? How do you engage with them? So what we're trying to do here, again, is thinking about my ideal client. I know I have my ideal client on my email list. What might be helpful for them? Generally, I would say we want to give some variety. So what some therapists will do is that they'll maybe do, say, a monthly newsletter. And it might be a monthly newsletter where they're sharing some insights into their specialism. They may be sharing a few little strategies, maybe sharing some resources, maybe sharing book recommendations. There's different things like that that might be helpful. And it might be just when you're getting started, doing a newsletter type thing might be a great idea to do. Generally, we want to try and maintain some level, like any marketing that we're doing, we want to try and maintain some level of consistency. So it's probably not that helpful. You just send an email once, maybe just only once a month or once every 2 months. You would want to try and have some sort of level of consistency that feels like they're hearing from you enough to remember you, to get value in what it is that you're sharing, but that it's also not so much that they feel overwhelmed or they feel bombarded by you. So that might be once a week. That might be once a fortnight for you. And you might be listening to this and you're thinking, oh my God, once a week, they're going to get sick of hearing from me. But we have to remember that not everybody is going to open every email that you ever send. Like I said, a really great and amazing open rate would be 50%. More kind of a standard average, industry average is probably somewhere maybe around the 30% mark. So for any email potentially you send, maybe 30% are going to open it. So not everybody is going to see every email that you ever send. So if you are getting to a point where you're wanting to promote a workshop, a program, or something that you're delivering, you are going to have to increase the frequency of which you're sending them emails. Otherwise, there's a possibility that people just aren't going to see it at all. So when we're thinking about different content and different types of emails that you're going to be sending out, you want to think about things like maybe sharing some psychoeducation. So sharing some helpful information around your specific niche area. It might be that you're sharing another free resource or teaching some sort of a skill that might be helpful. It might be things like I mentioned, like recommending books and things like that. But what people do tend to really engage with often is storytelling. And that might be storytelling in that you are sharing a story, perhaps how you have helped someone else through a transformation. And obviously being very mindful of client confidentiality and not breaking boundaries. So there might be things that you need to tweak and change, but people do love to hear stories. So it might be sharing stories of some of the work that you have been doing um, in your private practice, or it might even just be sharing stories about yourself as much as you kind of feel comfortable in maybe something that's been coming up for you, something that you've been thinking about, some sort of insight that you want to share. People get really interested. You know, we're naturally curious people and we get very curious and we get very interested in other people and hearing their thoughts and their opinions and sharing ideas. And that generally is content that people are more likely to read and engage with. And it's all those sorts of emails are also helping them to really build some sort of a connection with you, feeling like they maybe know you in some way, that they've got a bit of an insight into your world and how you think and how you feel about things. And that is so important, you know, that we're talking about building connection, building a relationship, building trust. And that is so important that when you're then thinking in the future about delivering a workshop on something to help your ideal client, that your marketing becomes so much easier because you've actually got people there already on your email list, already really loving your emails and the insights that you're sharing and hearing more about you and your, you know, your thoughts and on things, that it's much easier for you then to market to people who already engaged with you. We sort of call that, if you want to call that maybe like a warm audience. A warm audience is people that already like you, people that already, you know, maybe share your values or share your, you know, thoughts and share your opinions on things. They're much more likely to be a warm audience, more likely to engage in whatever it is that you're offering, rather than you maybe in Facebook groups just throwing a post in there and saying, hi, I'm running this workshop or I'm running this course. Do you want to come? That if they don't know you at all, if they've never heard of you before, they're probably less likely to engage. And I think so much of what therapists perhaps do, and I have seen people promoting courses and promoting workshops, is that they're promoting it to a cold audience. They're promoting it to people that don't really know them. So we want to say email marketing is not a quick win type of marketing. It is a longer term strategy, but it's an essential strategy for therapists that have this vision of going beyond the one-to-one offer and have the vision of being able to offer more in their private practice. But it's something that you would want to be starting early in your practice, ideally, and building up over time. And like anything, you know, it's going to take time. It's going to take a bit of skill. It's going to take practice, learning these kind of marketing skills of how do I create conversational emails? How do I get comfortable sending an email to people? How do I get more comfortable sharing my thoughts and my opinions on things? So obviously that's going to take time and a bit of practice to get really comfortable and really confident with that. But it honestly is such an effective way for that longer term strategy, such an effective way of then being used to promote what your offers are. And that's I really love to try and kind of plant that seed in a therapist's mind kind of earlier on in their private practice. I did a vision and goal setting session with my community on Sunday there. I did like a guided visualization and getting them to really see like their dream business in 3 years' time and thinking about their business model and thinking about what their offerings would be and thinking about what that might look like. And I think it's so good when you're starting in private practice to get into that mindset of thinking about the bigger vision and then working back and thinking, well, what do I need to start to do and embed now to support this bigger vision? And so for beyond just one-to-one offerings, email marketing absolutely is a feature that you strongly want to consider being in there. So I hope that has maybe planted a little seed in your mind. It has got you thinking a little bit whether this is something that you want to think about, that you want to consider. Definitely, if you are focused around your website and updating and improving your website, and you're wanting to drive traffic to your website and you're working on your SEO and all of that kind of stuff, then having some sort of a free resource on there and starting to build and grow an email list is 100% something that you want to think about. If you're sitting listening to this and going, that all sounds well and good, but how the heck do I even do that? I do have a workshop series that is coming up in February, early in February, that you might be interested in, that is going to cover basically what I've just talked through. I'm going to be teaching. So I'm doing a 2-part workshop. One is on the 4th of Feb from 11 to 1, and the other is on the 6th of Feb from 11 to 1. It's a 2-part workshop, and I've sort of created it that you can either do one or the other, depending on where you're at, or you can do both together, and there's a discount if you buy both together. The first workshop is where I'm going to actually be walking you through how to brainstorm ideas for your free resource, for your lead magnet, how to use AI to help you generate your free resource, and how to use Canva to then create it and to build it. So by the end of that 2-hour session, you're going to be leaving and you've got a draft outline and everything worked out for what your free resource and your lead magnet is going to be. That's on the Tuesday. And then on the Thursday is a workshop specifically around email marketing. So that's really that second part. Once I actually have them on my email list, what do I do? And how do I set it up? And how do I start to build connection? And how do I start to generate sales for workshops and courses using email? So it's going to be the first time that I have ran both of these workshops, but it's an area that I feel really strongly about, that I'm really passionate about. And I'm hoping that it's going to be really, really helpful for those that are interested. So what I will do is I will share the link in the show notes below. And if you can't happen to find it, then do just send me a little message. You'll find me on Instagram at Prosper in Private Practice, or you can send me an email at claire@prosperinprivatepractice.com. The workshops individually are 37 each for both workshops, or you can buy the 2 of them for a reduced price of 60. Basically, when you go in to sign up for one, it'll offer you to add the other workshop on for a discounted price. So either 37 each or £60 for the 2 workshops. So if you have email marketing in your eyeline, if you have selling workshops, courses, things like that in your future, then you might want to check out these workshops. If you're not able to attend live, they will be recorded and you'll get access to the recording and all the resources that come along with it. And I hope to see you there. And I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. And I'll see you really soon. So that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, if you found the episode helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could share it with other counsellors and therapists in private practice. If you'd like to find out more about me and how I can help you build and grow your private practice, hop on over to my website, which is www.prosperinprivatepractice.com, and you'll also find me on Instagram under the same name. But until next time, I will see you soon. Take care.